He had always believed that caring was a virtue. Caring about opinions, outcomes, expectations, surely that meant he was responsible, mature, driven. But over time, something subtle started to rot beneath the surface. The more he cared, the more anxious he became, like carrying an invisible backpack filled with other people's expectations. It didn't collapse his life overnight. It eroded it quietly, one decision at a time. What most people don't realize is that caring too much isn't empathy, it's dependency wearing a friendly mask. When someone ties their emotional stability to how others react, approve, or respond, they hand over their internal power without noticing. It's like letting strangers hold the remote control to your nervous system. A single comment, look, or silence can hijack an entire day. That's not sensitivity. That's vulnerability without boundaries. There's a practical way to see this playing out. Think about how many times a person delays a decision because they're worried about disappointing someone, or how often they over-explain themselves just to avoid being misunderstood. Napoleon Hill hinted at this when he talked about definiteness of purpose. Clarity dies when external validation becomes louder than inner direction. And that's where the real damage begins, setting the stage for a shift most people never see coming. From the outside, seeking approval looks harmless, even polite. He listens, adapts, avoids conflict, tries to be easy to deal with. But internally, there's a constant negotiation happening, a quiet math problem that never ends. What do they expect? What should I say? How do I keep everyone comfortable? That mental loop consumes energy most people never realize they're losing. The real cost isn't just exhaustion, it's distortion. When approval becomes the compass, decisions slowly drift away from truth and toward safety. People start choosing what feels acceptable instead of what feels right. Careers are shaped to impress parents, relationships are maintained out of fear, and opinions are softened until they barely resemble honesty. Over time, life begins to feel oddly foreign, like living in a well-decorated house that doesn't quite belong to you. A simple experiment reveals this clearly. Ask someone to name the last time they said yes, while their body was screaming no. That internal friction is the price of approval seeking. Hill spoke often about self-confidence as a habit, not a trait, and habits are built through repeated self-betrayal or self-trust. Every time approval is chosen over alignment, the bill gets higher and eventually, something has to break. There's a quiet moment most people remember, even if they didn't name it at the time. It's the instant he realizes that no amount of effort will ever guarantee approval. Someone misunderstands him anyway. Someone judges him anyway. And strangely, instead of panic, there's relief. Detachment doesn't arrive like rebellion. It arrives like exhaling after holding your breath for years. This is where detachment gets misunderstood. It's not emotional coldness or arrogance, it's clarity. When he stops obsessing over outcomes he can't control, his energy returns. Decisions become simpler, faster, cleaner. He no longer needs to convince, perform, or defend every move. Like an experienced chess player, he stops reacting to every piece and starts playing the board. A useful analogy is driving at night in the rain. When you focus too hard on every raindrop on the windshield, visibility drops. But when you relax your gaze and look through the glass, the road appears. Hill called this the shift from fear-based thinking to controlled attention. And once someone tastes that kind of internal quiet, they start asking a dangerous question: what else have I been caring about that doesn't deserve my energy? At some point, he hears the accusation before it's even spoken. You've changed. And they're right, but not in the way they think. Not caring isn't about apathy. It's about precision. It's the difference between abandoning responsibility and refusing to waste emotional energy on things that don't move the needle. Most people never learn that distinction, so they swing between overattachment and guilt. What actually changes is his filter. He still cares deeply about his values, his craft, and the people who matter. What disappears is the noise, the opinions of those who don't live his life, the outcomes he can't control, the need to be liked by everyone in the room. It's like upgrading from a cluttered inbox to a system where only meaningful messages get through. The silence isn't emptiness, it's focus. A practical way to build this skill is almost boring in its simplicity. He starts asking one question before reacting: Will this matter in 5 years? If the answer is no, emotional investment drops automatically. Hill emphasized selective attention long before neuroscience gave it a name. And once that filter sharpens, a surprising side effect appears. Other people begin to feel that calm authority, even if they can't explain why. When emotional independence kicks in, decisions stop feeling heavy. He no longer treats every choice like a referendum on his worth. Without the background noise of fear and approval, clarity rises fast. Choices that once took weeks now take minutes, not because he's reckless, but because he's finally listening to the right signal. This shift shows up in small, almost invisible ways. He leaves conversations earlier without guilt. He declines opportunities that don't align, even when they look impressive on paper. He speaks more directly, not louder. Emotional independence doesn't make someone aggressive. It makes them honest. Hill would call this alignment between thought and action the foundation of personal power. There's a simple habit that accelerates this transformation: writing decisions down. When he puts the facts, risks, and desired outcome on paper, emotions lose their grip. Books like The War of Art reinforce this separation between resistance and intention. And as decisions become cleaner, a pattern emerges. Life starts responding faster, setting the stage for changes that go far beyond confidence. The irony is almost unfair. The moment he stops caring so much about how things look, they begin to work better. Relationships become lighter because there's no hidden agenda. Conversations flow without the need to impress. People sense the absence of neediness, and paradoxically, they lean in more. It's not manipulation, it's emotional cleanliness. Productivity improves in the same quiet way. Without the pressure to prove himself, he focuses on what actually matters. Fewer tasks get done, but the right ones move forward. Hill wrote about efficiency of effort, and this is exactly that principle in action. Energy once wasted on worry is redirected into execution, where results live. Even self-respect begins to change. When he stops abandoning himself to keep others comfortable, trust is rebuilt internally. A useful exercise is noticing when tension leaves the body after choosing alignment over approval. That physical signal becomes a compass. And as these improvements stack, a deeper question starts forming: what would life feel like if this became the default state? By this stage, something subtle but undeniable has settled in. He no longer feels the urge to react to every notification, opinion, or provocation. The world is just as loud, but internally, there's space. Calm confidence isn't about dominating rooms or winning arguments. It's about not needing to participate in every emotional transaction offered. This kind of presence changes how he's perceived. People listen more closely, not because he speaks more, but because he speaks less and with intention. There's weight behind his words. Hill often described this as the power of controlled thought, where mental discipline creates external influence. In a noisy world, restraint becomes magnetic. Maintaining this state requires a few grounded practices: limiting information intake, choosing solitude deliberately, and protecting mornings from chaos, all reinforce calm authority. Books like Deep Work echo this philosophy in modern terms. And as this way of living stabilizes, it quietly prepares the ground for a realization most people never reach: the moment everything truly shifts. There's a strange fear most people carry, but rarely admit. The fear that if they stop caring, really caring, everything will fall apart. Relationships will end. Opportunities will vanish. Respect will disappear. So they keep caring, even when it hurts, even when it drains them, even when it costs their peace. And that's the paradox. The very thing they believe is holding their life together is quietly holding them back. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The moment you stop caring about the wrong things, your life doesn't shrink, it expands. Confidence rises without effort. Decisions get clearer. People either adjust or fall away. And suddenly, the chaos that once felt unavoidable loses its grip. This isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about reclaiming authority over where your energy goes. What follows isn't motivational fluff or a call to stop feeling. It's a reframing that challenges a deeply rooted belief that caring more always leads to better outcomes. Once that belief cracks, everything changes: how you think, how you choose, and how the world responds to you. The shift is subtle, almost invisible at first, but the reward is immediate and profound. At this point, the message is simple, but not easy. Nothing changes until it's applied. Awareness without action is just another form of entertainment. The real invitation here is to notice, in real time, where emotional energy is being wasted and to consciously withdraw it. Not aggressively, not dramatically, just deliberately. One decision, one reaction, one boundary at a time. A few questions linger, and they're meant to. What opinions are still shaping choices that don't feel right? Where is silence being used to avoid discomfort? And what would happen if, just once, alignment mattered more than approval? These aren't questions to answer quickly. They're meant to follow the viewer into daily life, where real change happens quietly. If this perspective challenged something deeply ingrained, that's a good sign. Growth often feels like resistance before it feels like freedom. Apply what resonated, test it in the real world, and observe the results without rushing conclusions. And if this kind of thinking adds value, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because the next shift might arrive exactly when it's needed most.